strategy of how to weaken and ultimately destroy the American empire. So what the Iranians are doing is they're waging war against the entire global economy. And so they are striking the GCC countries. And not only are they striking GCC countries, American bases, they're going after the critical energy infrastructure.
Did you catch that? Let me repeat that for the people in the back. Iran is not waging a conventional war. Iran is waging an economic war, a systemic, methodical campaign to choke off the lifeblood of the Gulf states and, by extension, the United States of America. They are targeting American military bases. They are striking GCC nations, that's the Gulf Cooperation Council, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Oman. They are going after the critical energy infrastructure of these regions. And here is where it gets absolutely jaw-dropping, because most people think, okay, Iran fires some missiles, there's some geopolitical tension, markets wobble a little bit, and then everybody goes back to their corners. No, 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 no. This analyst is describing something far more sinister. This is a bucket list strategy, a systematic weakening of every pillar that keeps these Gulf nations alive. And when I say alive, I mean that quite literally.
All of these bases, they blocked off the Strait of Hormuz, and eventually
They are going after the water. 60% of the GCC's entire water supply comes from desalination plants. These are massive industrial facilities that take seawater and convert it into drinkable water. Because here's the thing about the Gulf. There is no river running through Riyadh. There is no Great Lakes sitting next to Dubai. These nations exist in one of the most water-scarce environments on the planet. And the only reason millions of people can live there is because of those desalination plants. Now here is the real kicker, and I want you to really absorb this. A drone. A single drone that costs $50,000 could potentially wipe out one of those facilities. $50,000. You know what $50,000 is in the context of state-sponsored warfare? It is absolutely nothing. Iran could send a swarm of these things, and if one of those plants goes down in Riyadh, a city of millions of people, they are out of water in 2 weeks. 2 weeks! That is not a military inconvenience. That is a humanitarian catastrophe. That is civilizational collapse on a timeline measured in days. And where is the Trump administration's strategic response to this? Where is the coherent Middle East policy that protects our allies and defends the infrastructure that the entire global economy depends on? Because what I'm seeing from this White House is a foreign policy built on Mar-a-Lago handshakes and Truth Social posts, not on serious strategic thinking about existential threats like this one.
They will go after the water desalination plants, which is the lifeblood of these nations because they don't have fresh water supply. In fact,
2 weeks. I keep coming back to those 2 words because I need you to feel the weight of them. We are not talking about economic hardship. We are not talking about rationing and inconvenience. We are talking about the total collapse of a modern nation's ability to sustain human life in 14 days. And the weapon that causes that catastrophe costs less than a decent used car. This is asymmetric warfare at its most ruthless, and Iran has been studying this playbook for decades. They understand that you do not need to match America's military might dollar for dollar. You just need to find the pressure points, the fragile nodes in the system, and apply precisely targeted force at exactly the right moment. Water desalination plants are one of those nodes, and the fact that this vulnerability exists and has not been addressed at the highest levels of American foreign policy is genuinely outrageous. But wait, because in an even wilder twist, it's not just the water. Because the analyst then pivots to food, and this is where the strategic picture becomes truly terrifying in its completeness.
The water desalination plant provides 60% of the GCC's.
90%. 90% of the GCC's food supply moves through shipping corridors that Iran has now effectively, de facto, closed off. Think about that. Water under attack from drone strikes, food supply routes strangled. And these are not poor, struggling nations we're talking about. These are some of the wealthiest countries on earth. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, nations that have invested trillions into modernizing their economies, into building gleaming skylines and global financial hubs. And Iran is systematically threatening their very existence, not their stock markets, not their tourism industry, their existence, the ability of their populations to eat and drink. This is existential pressure on American allies, and it is being applied with surgical precision, while Washington is apparently too busy with domestic political theater to mount a coherent response. Let me ask you something. If you were a Gulf state leader right now, if you were sitting in Riyadh or Abu Dhabi watching this unfold, would you feel confident that the United States has your back? Would you feel secure in the alliance that has underpinned your security and prosperity for decades? Or would you start quietly exploring other arrangements? Because that calculation, that moment when American allies begin to doubt American commitment, that is exactly what Iran is trying to trigger.
American economy. So what they do is they sell petrodollars and then they recycle the petrodollars back into the American economy through the investments in the stock market. And right now we know that the entire American economy.
Now here is where this whole analysis lands like a freight train on the American economy directly. Because some of you might be sitting at home thinking, okay, Carl, this is a Middle East problem. This is a Gulf problem. Why should I care sitting here in Ohio or Texas or Florida? Let me tell you exactly why you should care. The petrodollar system is the invisible architecture that holds the American economy together. Here is how it works in simple terms. The Gulf states pump oil. They sell that oil in US dollars. That creates a global demand for the dollar, which is why the dollar remains the world's reserve currency. And then, and this is the part most people don't know, those Gulf nations take those petrodollars and they recycle them right back into the American economy. They buy U.S. Treasury bonds, they invest in Wall Street, they pour money into American financial markets. And right now, a massive portion of that Gulf capital is flowing into one specific sector: artificial intelligence, data centers, the AI infrastructure boom that every tech investor and every financial commentator has been celebrating for the past 2 years. A huge chunk of that investment comes from sovereign wealth funds in Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar. So when people talk about the AI bubble and the trillion-dollar valuations of American tech companies, the Gulf states are a critical part of what is inflating that bubble.
The economy is propped up by AI investments in data centers. And a lot of that comes from...
The AI bubble bursts. The entire American economy collapses into financial crisis. Those are not my words. That is the logical conclusion of this analysis. And I want to be very clear about the chain of causation here, because this is important. Iran destabilizes the Gulf. Gulf states can no longer sell oil freely. Petrodollar revenues collapse. Gulf sovereign wealth funds pull back from American markets. AI investment dries up. The AI bubble, which is propping up the valuations of the most powerful companies in the world right now, pops. And when that bubble pops, it does not pop quietly. It takes the entire American financial system with it. We have seen this movie before. In 2008, it was mortgage-backed securities. In the dot-com crash, it was inflated tech valuations. Each time, the thing that was supposed to be the engine of the new economy turned out to be sitting on a foundation of sand. And now we are being told by a serious analyst with a serious face in a serious tone that the AI boom, the great hope of American economic supremacy in the 21st century, is dependent on the continued stability and prosperity of Gulf states that Iran is actively working to destroy. And what is Donald Trump doing about this? What is his grand strategy for protecting the petrodollar system, for securing Gulf energy infrastructure, for deterring Iranian aggression in a way that is coherent, consistent, and credible? Because from where I'm sitting, what I see is a foreign policy that oscillates wildly between maximum pressure and back-channel deal-making, with no clear doctrine, no clear red lines, and no clear understanding of how deeply intertwined the security of the Gulf states is with the financial security of every single American. So let me bring this home for you, because I think it is important to step back from the technical details, the desalination plants, the petrodollars, the AI valuations, and ask the big question, the question that should be keeping every serious policymaker up at night. Is America's leadership right now, today in 2025, equipped to handle a threat of this complexity and this magnitude? Because what this analyst is describing is not a crisis that you can tweet your way out of. It is not a crisis that resolves itself with a handshake deal at a golf resort. It is a multi-dimensional strategic assault on the foundations of American economic power being executed patiently and methodically by a state actor that has spent decades studying American vulnerabilities. Iran does not need to fire a single nuclear weapon. Iran does not need to send troops across any border. All they need to do is continue exactly what they are doing, targeting energy infrastructure, blocking shipping corridors, threatening water supplies, and the cascading consequences will do the rest. Water runs out, food runs short, oil revenues collapse, petrodollars stop flowing, AI investment dries up, markets crash, and the American empire, the one that has defined the global order for 80 years, begins its unraveling. And here is what outrages me the most about this moment. The people in power right now, the people who should be sitting in situation rooms, studying these analyses, building coalitions, developing deterrent strategies, are instead consumed by domestic political chaos, by attacks on judges, by threats against political opponents, by a daily circus of culture war grievances designed to keep you angry and distracted. While this is the real threat. This is what a sophisticated adversary looks like. This is what a real national security crisis looks like. Democracy is not just threatened by strongmen who take power by force. It is threatened when the people who hold power fail to take seriously the responsibilities that come with it, when they prioritize their own political survival over the survival of the institutions, the alliances, and the economic systems that protect all of us. You deserve leaders who understand what is happening in the world. You deserve a foreign policy that is serious, strategic, and competent. And until we demand that, until we hold these people accountable, analysts like the one you just heard today will keep sounding alarms that nobody in power is listening to. Stay informed, stay engaged, and I will see you in the next